I don't know. We're gonna see if this works, guys. I'm gonna pull it up on the computer so that I can see it. I'm on my phone now, and I'm gonna look at it on my computer, and I am gonna see what it looks like. So hello everybody. Hopefully this is the video that goes through. When you're here, can you please let me know what the video quality looks like? I've tried it 3 times now, and everybody said that the video was freezing or the video was pixelated. How is the video working? I would love to know. If you could let me know. Like, I think this is the 4th time I've tried to make this video where I talk about, like, this whole week we're talking about getting out of your comfort zone, right? So 4th time, is it a charm? Yes, no? How is the video doing? Is it good? If someone could comment and let me know, that would be excellent. I would love to know if the video quality is okay. I'm gonna pull it up on my own screen. So far, looks good. So I'm just gonna go with it. Hi everybody, it's Rita. Welcome to my Facebook Live. I'm so excited that I think it's finally working and that the video quality is okay. Today we are talking about radical change, but the real focus of today and what I'm gonna talk to you about is getting out of your own way so that you can achieve the results that you want. Because one thing, and we're gonna go into extreme detail in this, but one thing that I notice with entrepreneurs and business owners across the board is that, so how's it doing? Evala, you're back. You've been here like every time. How's the quality of the video? Is it good? Let me know. If somebody could let me know, that'd be excellent. But what I notice, right, is that when people are coming to me thinking, hey, I think I have a sales problem, or I think I have a marketing problem, or I'm having, a problem generating leads, or I have this issue, right? When people come to me and I dig in deep, it's not any of that, right? What they have is a stopping problem. And the stopping problem is because they've gotten in their own way, right? And that's what we're gonna talk about. Like, how do you get out of your own way so that you can achieve these results and have this impact that you wanna have in your business? So what I would love to know from people who are here, and if you're watching on the replay, is what is something that you want to be doing in your business that you're not doing in your business right now because, I don't know, maybe there's some hesitation. There's a little bit of fear. There's a little bit of uncertainty. Maybe there's overwhelm. Maybe you feel like, I don't know how to do it. Like, I want to do it. I just don't know how. So I would love to hear in the comments if you could tell me what is something that like you're really kind of wanting to do in your business. Hi everybody. Hi Judy. Hi Alexis. And I'm glad it's good. You look good. But like, tell me in the comments, like, what is something that you guys really want to be doing in your business that for whatever reason, right? It could be Facebook Lives. It could be networking at a certain place. It could be speaking to an audience. It could be offering a free resource for download. It could be sending a newsletter. It could be, I don't know, putting an offer out there. It could be approaching a mentor that you really want to work with. It could be hiring a coach that you really want to hire. But like, for whatever reason, you're just not doing it. So I would love to know if somebody could just like pitch in, like chime in, let me know. And if you're watching on replay, please let me know as well, because I do always come back and read the comments, okay? So that's gonna help with our conversation today. So Evala wants to be a guest on a podcast. So Evala, like, what's holding you up from that? Like, why aren't you a guest, or at least applying, right, to be a guest on all the podcasts? I would absolutely love to know. So the reason, like, if you haven't noticed, like all week long, so all week, it's Wednesday, right? But like all week long, we've been talking about getting outside of your comfort zone. We've been talking about what do you need to do to really reach results? Because I'm sure you've heard this quote before. To get something you've never gotten, you have to do something you've never done. And often doing things we've never done is really uncomfortable, right? For most people, it is uncomfortable. Not for everybody, and for some people they learn it and they learn that skill to be able to do it. But we're really talking about the majority of people, right? To do something new is like completely like terrifying for some, scary for others, overwhelming for others. So how do you get to these new results? How do you have the impact and reach the goals and do the things if everything that you're required to do to reach these goals is really uncomfortable? And so I've kind of been talking about this in different ways, and we're going to continue to talk about it for the rest of the week. But how do you get out? Like, it sounds great. Get out of your comfort zone. Growth happens at the end of your comfort zone. Like, just go there. If you just like break out of your comfort zone, right? If you just do that, everything will be fine. But like, that sounds great, but how do you do that? How do you do that in a practical way? What does it mean, right? So Eva's like, first, I don't know where to start. So I'm looking at my computer for comments so I don't mess up the image. I don't know where to start. You know, how do I ask? If I don't feel confident that I know what I'm doing for people to connect with me, right? Okay, so it starts with, I don't know, right? I don't know. So there's a lot that we're going to talk, there's a lot that we're going to talk about today, right? But the reason this even came up is because something I get asked a lot about is my kind of like my radical changes in my career. So for those of you who don't know, right, I started as a business attorney, right? That's how I started my career. I worked as a business attorney for like 13 years, and then I went into date coaching. That's a pretty radical change, right? And from date coaching, I went into business coaching, and like, that's a radical change. And then I made some incremental changes along the way, but people are always like, what? Like, how did you attorney to dating coach to business coach? And so that's how the radical change concept like came about for today, right? But the one thing that I realized when I was like digging into it, hi Maria, hello, hi Heather, I'm glad it's better. And for everybody just joining, I would love to know, like Eva had chimed in, but if there's something that you're wanting to do in your business that right now you're just not, you're hesitating on it. You want to try something new and different, but you feel lost, you feel overwhelmed, you feel a little scared, you're feeling resistance and you don't know why. When you go to do it, you feel anxiety, like whatever it is, posting on Facebook, doing market research, going networking, like I would love to know, please share it, right? But here's the thing, right? When I dug into it, like, how did I do this radical change? How did I go from a business attorney to a dating coach? And how did I do just everything that was involved? And it got down to one thing, which was I learned how to get out of my way so that I could do it. Because I kept looking for, well, what did I learn? What was the information that I learned? What was the thing that I studied? What was the knowledge that I gained, like textbook knowledge, that enabled me to leave the law and become a dating coach? And then I was trying to look again, like, what was the knowledge? What was the thing? What was the information that allowed me to switch from date coaching to business coaching? And at the end of the day, it wasn't about any of that, right? It wasn't about any of that. I'm gonna tell you what it was about. We're gonna go into detail, right? But it wasn't about any of that. It was about the fact that I learned how to get out of my own way. And so, hi Karen, hi Ray. So I shared a story yesterday about how I had been in a long-term relationship, 5 years, and the guy that I was dating broke up with me very suddenly, terrible breakup, right? But I kind of had this revelation right after that I had been in 5 long-term relationships in my life. I've been in 5 long-term relationships. And I realized that these relationships only had 2 things in common. They all ended in me. And so I decided that I needed to figure out why, because I didn't want that to keep happening. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do differently, right? That was my first thought. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. Like, how am I going to do this differently? Should I like read on a new way to meet people? Should I read up on a new outfit to wear? Should I read up on like what to say? Maybe I should read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And if I read that book, right, then maybe I'm going to know how to go date better. And then I kind of had this moment where I just stopped and I was like, this is ridiculous. Because the truth is, right, I had been reading about dating since elementary school. Right, since I got my first Teen Beat magazine. How many of you, I would love to know, so I'm really curious about this, because I said this to somebody the other day, and they were like, Teen Beat magazine? So I would love to know, how many of you used to get Teen Beat magazine? Just yes or no. I'm gonna look over here in the comments, but I would love to know. Am I the only one who knows what Teen Beat is? So Teen Beat magazine was like this magazine for girls that just had like these little posters that you could put on your wall of like celebrities, right? Some were like like centerfolds. It's ridiculous, right? And some were like just regular or whatever. And they had these pictures and you could just put them up on your wall. Oh my gosh, Eva was like, Robbie Ben. So my wall, okay, was cluttered with Kirk Cameron and then young Leonardo DiCaprio, Growing Pains years, right? Menudo, because I liked Ricky, right? I liked Ricky Martin. So I had his poster on my wall. I had like, there were just whatever. So I would like, who was your guy? That's what I would love to, or your girl. Like, but I don't think they had girls in Teen Beat magazine. I think it was just men. I think it was just boys, right? Like, I think so. But it was like a celebrity magazine, right? With articles and with images. So, but it like, since that, and then I got 17, right? Who got 17 magazine in school and, you know, all of these other kind of teen magazines. And I was reading about dating and I was reading about relationships and I was reading about boys and I was reading about crushes and I was, you know, I had been consuming all my life, right? Like all the way up until where I was, which was about to turn 35, about dating, right? I had read articles. I had, you know, graduated from 17 to Cosmopolitan and to, now I'm not vouching for the accuracy, right, of any information in these things. But like the point is the information was abundant, right? And then I got into like the internet years, right? Because I started college right as in 94. So right as the internet was kind of becoming big. And so then we had all of this access to information, right? So like here I was about to turn 35 going, okay, like I need to, hi Chesha, hi Marjorie, say hello when you're here, let me know. I can't believe Evala and I are the only two that knew what Teen Beat magazine was, and we were the only two to admit our celebrity crushes back in the day. But here's the thing, right? Brokenhearted, about to turn 35, and I was about to jump into what can I read and what can I learn to date better, to be a better partner, to find a better guy. But the reality is, right, I have been doing that all this time, so no new amount of information was going to like be the fix, right? But my mind defaulted to, well, I need to learn this so that when I go out, right, I'm meeting the right people. I need to learn this so that when I go out, I'm meeting the right guy. I need to learn this so that when I go out, I'm gonna have, you know, more of a chance of finding my partner. How many of you have ever felt like that before about anything, right? Which is like, I need to do something different, so I'm going to read about it. I'm gonna learn about it. I'm gonna watch videos about it. I'm gonna read articles about it. I'm gonna watch documentaries about it. Like, be honest, right? Like, here I am saying, yeah, that's what I was doing here about dating, right? And so I was about to jump into all this, men is from Mars, women are from Venus, and all this stuff. And I was like, but wait, I already kind of knew everything there was to know, for the most part, about dating. So no new amount of information was gonna have me have a different result with dating. The only thing that was gonna have me like experience a different result with dating was by doing something differently. And so that meant I had to examine me. I had to examine my actions, right? I had to admit it wasn't a lack of information that was keeping me from doing something. It wasn't a lack of knowledge that was keeping me from achieving a result. It was the fact that I wasn't out applying the knowledge that I had learned, or that I wasn't out like figuring out how I reacted, right? And what my habits were and how I could get better with my habits. It's the same thing in business, right? Kind of like Evala, I'm gonna use her example. She's like, well, first, I don't know how to be a guest on a podcast, right? But let's be honest, and I think Evala is the first, I know Evala, she will admit this, right? She knows how to find out. She knows exactly how to find out how to be a guest on a podcast, right? She can Google it. She could buy a class on it. She could hire a coach on it, right? She could go get the information and learn what she needs to do. So why isn't she, right? Again, it's not like lack of information. And I'm not saying that sometimes like you don't need information, right? Like Evala has not been reading about podcasting since her Teen Beat years, like I was with dating, right? But like the reality is she could easily find this information. It's abundant. information for anything is abundant. So lack of information, lack of knowledge isn't an excuse for like anything, right? Because we can get it. And we all know how, I mean, we're all on Facebook, right? And if you're here watching a Facebook Live, if you've learned how to join a Facebook group, right, chances are you're pretty resourceful and you're gonna know how to go find this information. So why aren't we, right? It's because we're getting in our own way, right? It's, yes, and evil is getting to it. Maybe I'm scared that I'm gonna look like I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm gonna sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And we're gonna get to that. And that's exactly my point, Evelyn. So thank you so much for thank you for being open to do that. Because that's the thing, like at the end of the day, we're in our own way, nothing else, right? And so when it comes to things that are scary, right? When it comes I'm gonna connect the dots here, promise. But when it comes to things that are scary, uncomfortable, new actions, new all the things, right? When it comes to that, it requires us to have to examine ourselves, right? So it's like, oh, I want to do a Facebook Live video. I mean, you could read, okay, how do I click and go live on a Facebook Live? But there's going to come a point where you have the information you need, right? So the next action means you're going to have to study yourself, right? Which is like, oh, I'm doing a Facebook Live and oh my gosh, I feel like I don't know what I'm talking about. And I feel like I don't want to educate people, and I feel like I just want to end it, right? Like whatever your reaction is, you're going to have to study yourself, right? And that means you might not do it right the first time, you might fail, you might whatever, right? But we don't like to study ourselves. We don't like to learn about ourselves. Yet it's learning about us and studying ourselves that is the one missing piece to getting the results that we want and doing all of these uncomfortable things, okay? So what are some things that are uncomfortable in general in entrepreneurship and building your business? I would love to know, and it would really be helpful. I mean, I've got a list and I can list them out, but I would love to know what you think are uncomfortable actions, across the board, right? What are some things that are uncomfortable that require you getting out of your comfort zone slightly or a lot to do as an entrepreneur in your business? Just, I'm gonna look over here for comments, but I would love to know some stuff, right? People always say, look, promoting myself, right? So Evil is asking people if they'll give me referrals, that's uncomfortable to her. Thank you. What else? What else is uncomfortable? People say, promoting myself, saying, hey, look at me, use me, buy my stuff. Some people say that's uncomfortable. Other people say, getting out there, being visible, having people look at you. So standing up in a networking event for some people is really uncomfortable. Talking about what you do for some people, very uncomfortable. Doing this, a Facebook Live, very uncomfortable. For a lot of people, even posting on Facebook, right? Just a simple post is not so simple for them. It's not comfortable. What else? Going new places, right? Going to a conference. I've heard people say, I don't like large conferences. I don't like large events. I get really nervous, really overwhelmed. I don't like networking events. I'm really introverted. I don't like, what, guys, I'm listing them all. What else? I know you guys know. Is it uncomfortable to comment on a Facebook Live? Honestly, that's a question. Is it uncomfortable for you guys to think about commenting here? That's something that could be I watch Facebook Lives, but I don't comment on them because who knows what? I feel resistance, or I feel worried, or I feel scared to comment, right? It's uncomfortable to ask for the sale. How many, just say yes to these things in the comments. If this sounds like you, some people are look, I don't mind educating people and I don't mind giving value to people, but boy, oh boy, when I say, do you want to work with me? When I say, do you want to be my client? Do you want to buy this? That's really uncomfortable, right? Eva, you can hog me all you want to. I would much rather talk to you than just talk to the air, right? Oh, Cheryl says following up is uncomfortable for her, right? Following up, the act of following up is uncomfortable. And some people tell me raising prices is uncomfortable when it comes time to raise their rates. Some people say enforcing their boundaries, right? And you can tell me which ones of these resonate with you. Enforcing boundaries is uncomfortable. Ending calls on time, telling people you have to end meetings on time, holding firm to your communication policies, saying no when people ask you to do things outside of what you are hired to do, right? Some people say that that's uncomfortable. Other people say speaking on stage is uncomfortable. So Eva is like, I agree, raising my price, talking about pricing, all of that, right? So what happens, because all of that is uncomfortable, you don't attend certain events, you skip out on certain events, you won't start something, right? You won't start something because you're so worried about it. So like Eva would like, I want to be on podcasts, I don't know where to start, right? She hasn't started because, right, she's worried about all of this discomfort she's gonna have to feel when she starts down that. And it's much easier. Who agrees with this? Like, I'm gonna keep trying to like pull you guys into talking to me today because I got my video to work, right? But who agrees that it's much easier to stay comfortable even if the comfortable place isn't making you joyous? And it might not be making you miserable, right? But it's not making you joyous, and you want more, and you know there's more, and you feel like you can do more and have more and experience more, but you just stay doing what you're doing and stay where you are because it's much more comfortable to stay there than to have to like do all the things. And I always say, conjure up, right? All the fear conquering energy that you need to conjure up in order to do the scary things, right? And it's much more comfortable to never start than it is to start and have to sit in discomfort, right? So we avoid the things that make us uncomfortable. And how do we avoid them, right? How do we avoid them? Usually by what we talked about at the beginning. Usually by consuming and reading about it. Because what we're hoping, right, what we're hoping we find is something that will make what is making us feel uncomfortable comfortable, right? So with Evala saying, hey, like, I'm worried about podcasts, right? Like, I want to be on podcasts, but I feel resistance to doing it, and that's my scary action, but I really want to do it. Chances are Evala is going to default to reading about podcasting. How do I get on podcasts? How do I do this? How do I do that, right? Here's the problem with that. When we read things, there is so much information out there that we get a million choices, right? We get a million choices for what we can do and how we can go about doing it. So when we read about it, we get overwhelmed. And when we get overwhelmed, we doubt that we know what to do, right? When we doubt that we're going to make the right decision, we doubt ourselves. When we doubt ourselves, we don't take any action. And when we don't take any action, right, we're like, oh my gosh, I really need to like learn how to do this. And you go right back to consuming and reading more about podcasts. And the reason that you're doing that is you're hoping that eventually one thing that you read will tell you something that's like, that's the secret. There you go. That's the thing that'll make this all comfortable, right? Like if that one thing. So it's kind of like, look, once I learn blank, then I'll feel good and I'll be able to get on video, right? Once I just learn about this, right, then I'm going to be able to get on video. Once I learn about this, then I'm going to be able to apply it to a podcast. And once I know this information, right, then I'm going to feel fine. I'm not going to feel comfortable. That's what we keep reading, hoping. So we'll read something and we'll be like, oh, I think that's a thing. Like, I think that's a thing that's going to make it comfortable. And then we go to do it and realize, nope, like I still feel really uncomfortable. So, right, I'm going to go read and try to find another way to do this where I won't feel uncomfortable. So who has been in that cycle before? Yes? Like, say yes if you have, right? Or say no if you haven't. But like, I was way early in my career, especially. But like, that's the cycle, right? It's like, oh, I want to learn how to do this. I'm going to read about it. Oh my gosh, like there are all these things to do and I don't know what to do and I'm doubting myself and like, I don't think I'm going to pick the right thing. So I'm going to keep consuming, right? And I'm consuming and consuming, not because I don't know the info. Like eventually we start reading the same stuff over and over and we keep reading it, but it's because, right? It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm trying to find the thing that's going to make it feel comfortable and it doesn't. So I just keep stuck in that loop, right? Because we treat discomfort like something that's negative, right? How many of you have felt like that about feeling uncomfortable or feeling like it's a bad thing, like we shouldn't feel it, right? In fact, I hear a lot of entrepreneurs, especially, and we're going to talk a little bit about this at the end, right? But how many of you have like heard or even started telling yourself that everything you do in business should feel good, right? I hear this so much now. If it doesn't feel good to you, don't do it, right? If it doesn't feel good in your soul and in your stomach, like, don't do it. If it doesn't feel, I dropped everything. If it doesn't, you know, I'm like, oh, see, uncomfortable. If it doesn't feel fun, if it doesn't feel, like, don't do it, right? So how many of you have heard that advice? Like, if it doesn't feel good to you, don't do it, right? But I think that's doing such a disservice, right? Because there's a big difference between doing things that like are against your values and doing things that you know are not in alignment with your morals, and doing things that like aren't, you know, basically really in alignment with who you are, your morals, your beliefs, and your values. There's a big difference between that and then doing something that feels uncomfortable, right? Because everything, like if you're growing, you're gonna have to like get through that period of discomfort. And I think that the way that marketing has started happening, and I think the way that like all the language, because that's what people want to hear. But who doesn't want to hear, don't do it if it doesn't feel good. Find the way that feels good to you, right? Just keep, and that's what, if you think about it, right? That's what companies and coaches and all kind of want you to fall into, right? They want you to fall in to just buying their next class, buying their next product, like reading their next book, doing the next thing, right? Like, so it's kind of like they're setting you up to fall into that loop, right? Like, oh, but there's a better way, or here's a secret you didn't know about, right? Here's a simple solution to your problem. And so you're going to keep consuming, hoping you find that secret, hoping you find that simple solution, because you're trying to solve a problem that's not there. The problem you're trying to solve is discomfort. And discomfort, oh, thank you, Eva. Discomfort is there, but it's not a problem. And that's like the first thing I want you guys to take away. Discomfort isn't negative. Feeling and sitting in discomfort, right? Being in discomfort, it's not bad. It's not something you have to fix. So I'm giving you permission, and I want you to give yourselves permission to stop consuming stuff in order to keep trying to find the way that will make it feel comfortable, because everything can't feel comfortable, and it won't, right? So again, don't do anything against your beliefs, your morals, and your values. But instead, right, instead of being like, I have to fix discomfort, I have to find a secret in order to feel comfortable with what I'm about to do, I want you to learn how to sit in discomfort. I want you to learn how to like be in it. And that's not easy, right? It's not easy. So how do you guys do it? For those of you who have ever done it before, and I'm going to give you some steps and stuff here, but like, how have you guys done it, right? So for me, with the 35 dates that I talked about right at the beginning, when my boyfriend broke up with me after 5 years, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm the common denominator, that means I have to study myself. So the only way I can study me, because I'm in my own way, I know everything there is to know about dating and relationships and communication. I've read every book out there, but like I'm in my own way, because I'm the only thing that's in common with these guys, right? And so I have to study me, and I can't read about me in a book. Not yet. Like one of you write a book about me, but I can't read about me in a book, right? So how am I going to learn about me? I have to do things that are uncomfortable. I have to do things so I went on 35 dates in 35 days with guys I didn't know. I didn't want to know anything about their age or their race or what they did for a living. I had them pick the activity. The point was to do things I would normally not do and meet people I would normally not meet, so that I had to be really uncomfortable, because I knew that was the only way I was going to have habits come out and show up to me, and reactions come up and show, and thoughts and judgments and all of that, and then I could study them and ask myself, why is that happening in this situation? Why am I reacting that way? Where is that coming from? Is that serving me? Is that getting me to the results I want? Yes or no? And then I was able to like tweak it, right? So that's what I had to do. I had to study me. And so for all of you guys out there who are like, I want to send a newsletter, and I want to be on podcasts, and I want to raise my rates, and I want to be on Facebook Live, and I want to speak on stage, and I want to do these things, right? Which are all wonderful things, but they're all scary things, or they're at least new things that mean you're going to have to like walk for the first time like a baby, right? You're going to have to take some steps that are unfamiliar to you, and that's not comfortable. And so you're going to try to keep consuming to find the way to do those things that's comfortable, instead of saying, wait a minute, I have all of that information. The only thing I haven't studied yet is me. I'm the only thing keeping me from doing this. And the only way I can study me is to start doing it. And as I do it, I can study me and I can improve. I can improve my mindset. I can improve my habits. I can improve my consistency. I can improve my whatever. But the only way I can do that is by studying me. And the only way I can study me is by starting the thing. Meaning I'm going to have to allow myself to feel discomfort. I'm going to have to allow myself to feel uncomfortable as I'm working through it to get to the other side, right? And eventually you will. Like eventually you'll feel comfortable, or eventually you'll decide that's not right for you, right? From a different place, and you'll pivot. How many of you guys are with me? Yes? No? Like, are you like, Rita, that sounds great, but how? How do I sit in discomfort? Because that's not fun, right? It's not fun. So the idea is you have to take action despite feeling uncomfortable, right? Action despite feeling uncomfortable. You can't try to avoid discomfort, or you're just not going to be successful. Are we good there? Like before I move on to how, because I'm going to give you guys some tips on how. Yes, no, I want to make sure that I've gotten I wrote down some stuff today, guys, right? I want to make sure that I tell you how. And so here's the thing, right? The thing that you're thinking about, the thing, Facebook Lives, podcasts, whatever, that feels like radical change to you because it's so different, and that's why you're not doing it. I'm going to start a Facebook group. I'm going to speak on stage. I'm going to whatever. But the way that you get to radical change, right, which means fundamentally changing something about your process, your systems, your core. So like changing your career, or changing your career, changing your approach, changing your company, right? Tiffany says, I'm still trying to lean into the discomfort, right? And it's, Tiffany, I will say, that's the whole point. You can't do it on your own. You can't do it on your own, right? Who's going to let themselves just sit in discomfort by themselves, right? Nobody, right? Nobody. Tiffany's like, well, so Tiffany said the best way for me to do it is to not think. I have to just do. Yes, but while you're doing, you have to think a little bit, right? So that you're able to adjust or pivot. And we're going to talk about how to do that. But you're right, you just have to start. You just have to start. That's what we're going to try to help you with. But I really wanted you guys to see like the cycle, right? There's something you want to do. It feels completely different. I want to offer a new class. I want to offer new packages. I want to change what I'm offering. I want to change how I'm offering it. I want to change the name of my company. I want to change the name of my Facebook group, right? Which if you guys saw, by the way, I'm changing the name of Women's Business Garden. So I would love some suggestions so that I can pick my name next week when I'm on vacation. Right? But it's like, okay, so there's all this radical stuff I want to change and do, but it's super scary to do that. I'm going to try to avoid feeling uncomfortable. The way I'm going to try to avoid it is by reading and consuming all I can to try to find the magic way to do it in a way that feels comfortable. I'm going to realize there's so many options. I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to feel doubt. I'm going to feel even more resistance, meaning I feel even more comfortable about the thought of doing it. And so I'm going to keep consuming to try to find the right way. When really what you have to do is say, I know enough. I know enough. I have enough info. The one thing I haven't studied is me. And I got to get out of my own way so that I can do this thing. And that means I have to do something differently. But for me to know what to do differently, for me to know how to think or act or what I'm supposed to do differently, I have to study me. And the only way that I can study me is by starting to take the action, right? Just like I did with 35 dates. By going on 35 dates in 35 days, I learned along the way about the mindsets I had that were blocking me from finding love. I learned about the reactions, the judgments, the immediate predominant thoughts that I had that were keeping me from finding love. I learned about my actions, my reactions, my habits that were keeping me from finding love. I couldn't have studied that in a textbook. I could only study it through doing. And by doing that, I was able to revise myself, revamp myself, refresh myself, grow, improve, so that I could bring myself into alignment with the results that I wanted. And I found my husband, right? No, he was not one of the 35 dates. Date 34 introduced me to my husband. So, but yes, you know, like that's the thing. So how do you do it? Okay. How do you do it? Hi, Emily. We're talking about getting out of your comfort zone. It's Emily's favorite topic, I think. Okay. So how do you do it? Right? How do you do this? How do you get out of your own way? How do you start studying yourself so that you can get out of your own way, right? Because that's really the key. The first thing to understand is you don't just step aside and get to do the thing. It's like there's a thing you want to do, there's resistance, there's fear, you're feeling anxiety, whatever, hesitation, right? It's not as easy as just step aside, Rita, and now I'm going to do it. It's like I have to do it in order to learn what I have to do to get out of my own way. Does that make sense? Like by starting it, if a podcast, I'm going to stick with Evila's example of podcasts. If being on podcasts and applying for podcasts is scary to me, the only way I'm going to learn how to get out of my own way is to start applying to podcasts, right? To see like, how did I write my pitch? What did I sound like on the phone when I was being interviewed to get on their podcast? Like, how did I react to some questions? What information did I offer up? How well did I promote myself? What was I holding back on? You have to do that so you study yourself so you can learn what to do to get out of your own way. So you can learn the confidence, flex the skills, right? So that's what are we good there? I just need to know a yes or no. Like, are you guys good? If you're on replay, let me know if everything's clear. Because if that's not clear, what I'm about to say about how to do it isn't going to be clear. So I want to know. So number one, here we go, right? We got like six simple steps, six secret steps, right? But I will caveat this. The only way you're actually going to learn how to be uncomfortable is to start being uncomfortable so that you can study yourself with what you do when you're uncomfortable so that you can get out of your own way and do more uncomfortable things more often so that you get the results that you want, right? Number one, you have to acknowledge that you're feeling discomfort. So who has it? I mean, I've stuck with the podcast thing, but who else has an example? I would love to know. What is something you really, really want to do in your business that you're not doing right now? Because there's fear or doubt or uncertainty or overwhelm or hesitation or anxiety around it. Who wants to answer? Like what is a thing? I would love to know. What is a thing, right? If nobody answers in a minute, I'm going to stick with the podcast example because I'm going to run with what I got, right? And while I wait for an answer to see if another answer comes in, right? Like when I did today's Facebook Live, guys, I had to start it 4 different times because the video quality was terrible. That was not comfortable, right? But if I said, oh, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to do it, right? Then I would have never been here talking to you. It's not the most comfortable thing when I'm talking into a Facebook Live and nobody's answering me. I'm just going to be honest, right? Like I'm allowing myself to sit in discomfort while I'm doing this Facebook Live and nobody's interacting with me, right? If I were like, oh, this feels uncomfortable and everything's supposed to feel good to me. And so I'm just going to stop it, right? Not do it. Like, do you think I'm ever going to get the results I want? Absolutely not, right? All right, so seeing no other examples that are given, we're sticking with the podcast. So step one, you have to acknowledge that you're feeling discomfort. And you do that by saying it out loud. I am feeling uncomfortable about applying to podcasts. I am feeling uncomfortable about posting on Facebook Live. I am feeling uncomfortable about starting a meetup group. I am feeling uncomfortable about attending this networking event. I am feeling uncomfortable about. So that's what I'd love if you're watching or you're watching on replay. I would love for you to comment with that phrase. I am feeling uncomfortable about what? Right? I'm feeling uncomfortable about raising my prices. I'm feeling uncomfortable about asking people if they want to work with me. I'm feeling uncomfortable about. I guarantee there's something you're not doing. That's why you're watching this video, right? That you want to be doing. So what are you feeling uncomfortable about? So you acknowledge it. But then step 2, you then own the truth about that. Okay, you have to own the truth, meaning you have to get to the real fear. Because what you just said, that's not the real fear, right? That's why I wish somebody would answer. Maybe I feel really uncomfortable answering Rita on her Facebook Lives. Yes? No? Right? But like, I would love to know, right? Something. But, so Tiffany says, I'm feeling uncomfortable about starting a networking group. All right, Tiffany, we're sticking with you now. Because you're here and you're live and it's good. Here's the thing, Tiffany. You're not really feeling uncomfortable about starting a networking group, right? Like the actual act of starting a networking group is pretty easy, right? You go on, and I know for a fact you're trying to start a meetup, right? So the act of it is go on Meetup, register for a Meetup account, create a name of the group, set up a title, right? Like a description of the group, decide what my first event is going to be, put that on the calendar and post it, right? If you were honest, is anything about those steps uncomfortable? Like just going and clicking and like filling out a form on Meetup or filling out information into boxes on Meetup, is that uncomfortable to you? And I'm gonna wager a guess that your answer is no, right? Like, no, that's not. Like, maybe sometimes with technology, it's like, how do I do that? But we all pretty much know we can watch a tutorial, we can ask somebody, right? Like, how did you create your Meetup account, right? We all got here on Facebook, right? So we figured that out. So chances are, Tiffany, yes or no, like, are the actual physical steps of creating a Meetup group uncomfortable to you? Just creating the group. Right, Tiffany's like, not terribly. Yet here she is, I'm feeling uncomfortable about starting a networking group. So if you keep telling yourself the lie, your brain is gonna keep feeling it, right? Your brain is gonna keep feeling it, right? And is networking uncomfortable? Tiffany, I'm gonna keep pushing you. Is networking uncomfortable? Really? Is like the act of going up and saying, hello, how are you? And somebody going, I'm fine, how are you? Is that really uncomfortable? Right? Just that, saying hello and being said hello back to. Is that uncomfortable? Like, truly, if you were to really be honest, right? So here's what I mean. We keep focusing on the wrong thing and our brain will believe it. So if Tiffany's like, hey, starting a networking group is uncomfortable, right? Because she's acknowledging it. Starting a networking group is uncomfortable. If she allowed herself to stay there, she would be focusing on solving the wrong problem. She would go to consuming how to start a Meetup group, right? Best practices for starting a Meetup group. If she allowed herself to sit with the lie that she believes that networking is uncomfortable, then she's just gonna keep consuming how to network better, how to approach someone, what to say, how to smile, how to dress, right? And keep staying in that loop we talked about at the beginning, consumption and no action, right? She has to get to the real fear. Now, if it, like, I used to say this about dating, okay? My dating clients would always say, I feel uncomfortable about online dating, right? I feel uncomfortable about online dating. And I'd say, no, you don't, because we don't think about what is truly uncomfortable. It won't even pop up into our mind as a thing to do, right? It just won't. Like, I always use this example. Clowns, I don't know why, clowns make me extremely uncomfortable. Like, I do not like being around clowns, right? I don't like being around clowns. And so, right, I'm not thinking, man, I should really like go meet some clowns. I should like create a group for clowns. I really wish I was interacting with more clowns. Maybe I should put up an online dating profile and like see if they want to come hang around. Like, clowns are not in my mind at all. They don't pop up at all, right? Like, so the things that pop up in our mind, we're not actually uncomfortable about those, right? If we think, oh, I'd love to meet some new people, we're not uncomfortable about meeting new people. If we think, I'd love to speak on stage, we're not uncomfortable about speaking on stage. If you think, maybe I should do a Facebook Live, you're not uncomfortable with doing a Facebook Live. If it pops into your head, you are not uncomfortable with it. It would never pop into your head if you were really uncomfortable with it, right? What you're uncomfortable with, and this is what I mean by acknowledging, right? Acknowledging the real thing. What you're really uncomfortable with is what could happen as a result of doing that. So Tiffany, what could happen as a result of walking into a room and meeting 15 people at one time? What could happen as a result of that? I want to know. I want to know. I feel like I want to have music, but like I don't want to pay royalties to be able to play music on Facebook, and I think they still mute it anyway. Tiffany, what are you really uncomfortable about? What could result if you're standing in a room talking to 15 people? What could happen? That's the answer I'm curious about, right? Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Yes, no? I would love to, I know 5 other people are on, or 4 other people I would love to hear, like, yes or no. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? Like, the act, so Tiffany started with, I'm uncomfortable. I want the worst case right now, Tiffany. What's the worst thing that could happen? Like, what could happen as a result of getting in front of 15 people, standing up in front of 15 people, right? And what I want you guys to see is that Tiffany started this by saying, I'm uncomfortable with starting a Meetup group. And then she was like, no, I'm not. The actual logistics of starting a Meetup group, I'm not uncomfortable with at all. I'm uncomfortable with networking. Okay, no, I'm not, right? I'm uncomfortable with meeting a bunch of people at one time. Okay, that's not actually true. If I just walked into a room and met 15 people, I'm not uncomfortable with that. What I'm uncomfortable about is what? right? And this is where people are like being rejected, having somebody say they don't like me, having somebody like say it's a stupid networking event, having someone say they're bored, right? So we're scared of, right, rejection. We're scared of like, it's not gonna work. No one's gonna show up to my meeting, right? Scared of looking stupid. We're scared of like not knowing, right? We're scared of failing. We're scared of rejection. We're scared of other people's opinions, right? That's the thing you're trying to avoid. That's the real fear. So until you acknowledge the real fear, you're never going to be able to solve it. If you stay stuck on the lie of what you're scared of, you're going to keep trying to solve that and then never do it, because that's not really what you're scared of. What you're scared of is this stuff. This is what you have to solve. And the only way to solve it is through you, right? The only way to like not care about other people's opinions is to study you. The only way to like not be worried about failure is through studying you. The only way to be sure that you know what you're talking about is to study you, right? So Evala had said about her podcast thing, I'm afraid of doing I'm uncomfortable with doing podcasts. And then she was like, actually, no, I'm uncomfortable with applying to them. Okay, no, like what I'm really uncomfortable about is being on the podcast. Okay, no, what I'm really uncomfortable about is that I'm going to sound stupid on the podcast, that I'm going to talk about things that are wrong. I'm going to give the wrong facts. I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, right? That's what I'm afraid of. The only way that she can solve that is to study herself and is to feel good with herself and is to start reaffirming that she's got the skills and the knowledge and the talents and she has the ability, right, to step into all of that. Does that make sense, guys? So number one, right, to get out of your own way, number one, you have to acknowledge that you're feeling uncomfortable about something. Hi, Belinda, right? Like, I am feeling uncomfortable with, like Tiffany said, I'm feeling uncomfortable with starting a networking group. But then you can't stop there. You have to keep digging till you get to the real fear. And the real fear will always be fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of other people's opinions, right? Failure includes like not knowing what you're talking about, right? Like, so fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of other people's opinions. They're one of those. That will be the real fear. Once you own that and say, I feel uncomfortable about being rejected. I feel uncomfortable about failing. I feel uncomfortable about what other people will think of this event or of me or whatever, right? I feel uncomfortable with that. Now you can really start solving the problem. Are we good there? Does that make sense? So how do you do it? How do you solve the problem, right? How do you solve it? Step 3, you have to give yourself evidence, right? So in the Evala example about the podcast, right? Her whole thing was, okay, I'm not really uncomfortable with podcasts. I'm uncomfortable that I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about once I get on the podcast, and people are going to think that I'm not an expert, and people are going to think that I'm not good at what I do, right? That was her thing. So how does she then solve that problem? She has to start giving herself evidence that she knows what she's talking about. So you would start documenting every time that you set a right statistic, all the education you have, all the skills, all the experience. I've had 15 clients. They've all had wonderful results. I got on stage and the audience emailed me and said that I was wonderful. I was on another podcast before, right? And I blah, blah, blah. So you have to start giving yourself evidence that shows you don't need to be worried about that, right? Like with Tiffany saying, I'm afraid of starting a networking group. But the reality is she's not scared. She's afraid that people aren't gonna show up or people aren't gonna like her or people whatever, right? She has to say, okay, maybe I don't have any evidence that people are gonna show up, but I have evidence that I can handle whatever happens, right? So that's the next thing. So you either give yourself evidence that like, that's not true. Like, see, it's not going to happen. I've done this before and it hasn't happened, right? I've been on a podcast before. I've worked with clients before and I know what I'm talking about. Like, I know my stuff. I have education and skills and I've talked about it, right? Or in Tiffany's case, where she might not have evidence and she might not have proof, right, that people are going to show up to her networking event. What she does have evidence of is that she can navigate whatever situation comes her way, right? So she can look at past things in her business, past similar circumstances in other areas of her life that she did something, right, that didn't spark attention, that didn't spark interest, and successfully navigated that circumstance, that she can handle whatever comes her way, right? That's the evidence, right, Tiffany, that I want you to give yourself. Or you can just look in your past and see where you've done it before. So like with, with business, it could be, I'm really afraid that my clients are going to leave and not come back. I'm afraid that I'm not going to get any new clients. I'm afraid that whatever, right? I'm afraid that things are going to leave and not come back. Money's going to leave and not come back. But you can like look in other areas of your life for evidence where that wasn't true, right? Like, or like where you figured it out. Like, hey, I used to feel like that about dating. I used to feel like men leave and they don't come back, right? But then I got over that fear, and here's how I got over that fear. Right? I built my self-esteem. I became very secure in my skills. I understood my value. I believed in abundance. I stepped into abundance. I got my mindset right. And then I was able to overrate that, right? So if you show yourself evidence from how you've kind of done the same thing in a different area. So number one, acknowledge that you're uncomfortable about something. Number two, dig to the real fear, because you're not uncomfortable with that thing. You're uncomfortable with what could happen, right, as a result of that thing. Rejection, failure, other people's opinions, right? Once you know that, start solving that problem by showing yourself evidence that you can handle whatever circumstance happens based on things that you've done in the past, evidence that you've actually done that before and everything worked out well, or evidence that you actually did something similar in a different area of life, right? You've already done that in different ways in different areas, so you can do that again here, right? Also, like, evidence of your skills, your strengths, your experience, right? Give yourself evidence of, like, when I say that Tiffany can handle anything that comes up, right? The evidence that Tiffany would give herself to prove that is, I have a coach, I have a mastermind group, I have friends, I have family, I have a support network, I have access to resources, I have access to a therapist, I have access to whatever, right? Like, really list out your support network so you see that you're able to navigate like any circumstance that comes up as a result of taking this scary action. Okay, does that make sense? Right? Yes, no, are we good? You guys are super quiet today, man, super quiet. Again, sitting in the discomfort of having a very quiet Facebook Live today, right? And I know I was having technical problems at the beginning, but okay, so acknowledge it, get to the real fear, give yourself evidence then to overcome that real fear once you know what it is, and then look at baby steps, right? What happens is we're so worried about the end that we never start. So I shared this story. How many of you saw this story about my client, Cindy? How many of you saw the story about my client, Cindy? So, Christina. So Christina came to me, she lives in Chicago. Christina came to me as a dating client, a date coaching client, a long time ago. And she wanted to talk about her career. And she wanted a new job. She was in a toxic work environment and she wanted a new job. And she found the perfect job, her dream job. She found it, but it was in California. And she called me and said, I just don't think I want to live in California. And I was like, okay. And then she started talking about the cost of milk in California. I don't know. She was just telling me all this stuff about California. And I was like, I'm confused. Why are we talking about moving to California? And she's like, cause the job is in California. I'm like, yeah, I'm still really confused. Did you get the job? She's like, no, Rita, I haven't even applied for the job. And I'm like, so why are we talking about moving to California? Like, you haven't even applied for the job. Right? Why are we there? She was so focused on the end. Oh my gosh, California. And do I want to live in California and the cost of living? And will I be able to afford it? Will I like it? And that she wasn't even going to start, right? Because of the end, right? Like, she wasn't even going to start. I was like, we can't talk about the end. We can't worry about the end until we get to the end, right? Like, we can't worry about it. We have to just start. So you break it down into baby steps. So I said to her, what's the first baby step? She's like, back then it was fax. She's like, faxing in my resume to this company. Cool. Are you scared of faxing in your resume to the company? No. All right. Fax it in. All right. And then she got the interview and she was like, am I allowed to be afraid now? And I'm like, no, right? Like, just because you get the interview doesn't mean you're going to get the job. And just because you get the job doesn't mean you'll take it, but you have to take it, right? And I said, so we'll worry about each step. So we'll just focus on the next step. So she focused on the interview and she went through the interview. She got the job offer, right? So she's like, oh my gosh, can I freak out about California now? I said, no. First, you have to read the job offer and really think about it and say, do I love it? And is there anything else besides California that I don't love about this? And she's like, all right. So she's like, okay, I read through everything. I really thought about it. I love everything about the job. everything. The one thing I don't love is California. And I said, okay, call him up, tell him that. Say, I love this job. I love everything about it, but I've thought about it and I don't want to move to California. She's like, that's it? It's like, that's it. She's like, okay. So she called him up and said that. And they were like, look, Christina, we really love you. We are motivated to have you on our team. How about this? You can telework from Chicago if you'll fly into California for like a week every other month. She was like, okay, right? And she did it, and she's still doing that job. I mean, she's a little higher now, but she's still doing that job. But like, the point was, right, she was about to not apply for that job because she was so focused on the end, right, that she wasn't even gonna start. But like, she might not have ever even gotten to that end, right? She might not have gotten the interview. She might not have gotten the job, right? She might have gotten the job offer and hated so much more about it than she thought that she never even had to spend any time thinking about California, right? Like, there are a million steps between you and the end of whatever you're hesitating to do. So don't look at that. Just look at the first step. All I have to do is fax in a resume. All I have to do is come up with a title. All I have to do is register for a MailChimp account. All I have to do is walk out to my car. I mean, like really focus on the teeny baby step, right? And then after that's complete, focus on the next baby step and focus on the next baby step, right? Because pivots, guys, the next thing to kind of like acknowledge about that is pivots are okay. You can change, right? Like you can decide that you want something and then later decide you don't. My husband and I were supposed to be moving to Key West in 2020. Right? That was our goal. We set that goal. Do you guys remember? We set that goal like 3 years ago. Or like 2020. February 2020, we're moving to Key West. Done. Right? And so we set our like little baby steps in motion and we started taking them and we realized the year before, we realized almost a year ago or so, we could actually move to Key West right then. Or like we could do it right now, right? He could quit his job. We could move to Key West. And I was like, and he was like, and neither one of us was excited about it, right? We weren't excited about it because the people who set the goal, right, had to do all of these things that made us different people. And so the new people that we were, right, from all of these wonderful things we did to reach that goal, didn't want to move to Key West anymore. It was okay to pivot. So like the end might not even be what you think it is, right? Like it might not even get close to being what you think it is in any kind of way because pivots are okay. But you can only do that if you're focused on the steps. Does that make sense? So acknowledge that you're uncomfortable with something and then say, that's not really what I'm uncomfortable with. What I'm really uncomfortable is what could result from doing this thing. What is the result? And get it down to fear of failure, rejection, or other people's opinions. After you have that fear, give yourself evidence, like we talked about, all the different forms of evidence that it's gonna be okay, that you're gonna do it successfully, that you can navigate whatever happens, that you've done this in other areas of your life, that you have the skills and the knowledge and the support and the resources for all of that. And then look at just the very first step and do that step, and then take another step, right? And then take another step. And keep making your decisions along the way, right? And then celebrate. Number 5, celebrate, but not the end result. Celebrate every step. I mean, really celebrate every step. People think this is ridiculous, right? But Tiffany, when you actually create the meetup group, celebrate, pop some champagne, have a glass of champagne. When you create the description for the meetup group, right? Have a bubble bath. When you put up the first event, right? For the meetup group, like go out and eat at your favorite restaurant, whatever it is, indulge in a book, go walk outside, like every single step of the thing that you're doing that's uncomfortable, I want you to celebrate. I want you to be like, what? Like do a dance, right? Like do a dance, right? Like I want you to celebrate it. Do you know why? Do you know why I'm saying that? Like if you're on the replay, like I would love to know if you know why. It's really important that you associate positive feelings, positive vibes, positive emotions with being in discomfort, right? With sitting in discomfort. You're gonna sit in discomfort to get to the end result. You're gonna do it incrementally, right? You're gonna get to the radical change by taking incremental changes, right? These little step-by-steps. Those little step-by-steps are not as uncomfortable as the end result, the big picture of what you're doing, but they're still not the most comfortable thing. So and they're working towards something that could be really uncomfortable, right? So you have to celebrate it. You have to reward yourself. You have to self-care, reward, celebrate, give yourself a treat, right? For every little step. Because what that does is tells your brain, okay, like I get rewarded for sitting in discomfort. Like you're putting positive associations with being uncomfortable, which makes your brain like, okay, it's uncomfortable, but like we're gonna get an ice cream sandwich, right? Like totally gonna get an ice cream sandwich if I keep talking to nobody on a Facebook Live, right? So I can totally do that, right? The more so if you don't reward yourself, if it's like, okay, action done, I gotta get to the next action, I gotta get the next action, you're never gonna make it easier for yourself to just sit in discomfort and get through discomfort. And then the final point is to always be reminding yourself of your why, the bigger thing, right? Tiffany, are you still here? Yes? No? Are you still watching? If you're still watching, why do you want to run a meetup group? And I want you to ripple effect it all the way out. Why do you want to run a meetup group, right? Because if I run a meetup group, then I will meet these people. And if I meet these people, then people will build a relationship with me. And if I build a relationship with people, right, then I'm going to get more clients. And if I get more clients, then I'm going to make more money. And if I make more money, then I'm going to be able to spend more time with my family. And if I spend more time with my family, then I'm going to have a more intimate, deeper connected marriage. And if I have a more intimate, deeper connected marriage and a better relationship with my kids, right, then, right, I will feel more harmonious. And if I feel more harmonious, then I'm going to go do, like, then eventually my ripple effects always end up with me in Italy. Like I'm always on a mountaintop in Italy somewhere. So Tiffany, like ripple effect it out a little bit. Like what's your ripple effect, right? And what I'm doing here is getting you focused on the macro as opposed to the micro, because the micro actions can be a little uncomfortable or really uncomfortable, right? And the bigger thing that you're trying to take these action steps towards can be hugely uncomfortable, but the reward for doing it, right? The reason you're doing it, the macro, is super wonderful, right? Super pleasurable, right? Wonderful. So you have to remind yourself of the macro while you're doing the micro. And you have to keep that in your sight. You have to write it every day, journal it every day, talk about it, tell people about it. Like, you know, Evola, if you're watching or if you came back to watch the end, your podcast, right? Like we've done it, like we've dug through all these steps. So now you know all the baby steps and you know the thing you're gonna do. And you have to say, okay, like the reason I want to be on podcast isn't to be on podcast. Like I know when I'm on podcast, I'm going to reach more people. When I reach more people, I'm going to have more clients. When I have more clients, right, I'm going to make more impact in their lives, right? And what I do is help parents have a better relationship with their children. And if I help moms and kids have better relationships, right, I'm going to get more testimonials. And if I get more testimonials, I'm going to have more opportunities to interact with more people and impact more people's lives, right? Which will eventually bring me a lot more money and travel and opportunities to expand my skill set and expand my knowledge and expand my ability to improve my own relationships and my own, you'll be a better parent and be a better whatever, like ripple effect it out. That's the macro. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Like that macro, right? Is that worth like sending an email saying, how do I apply for your podcast? Right? Like, yes. Right? Yes. Always yes. So that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, right? Like, if you're just hopping on in the end, I really, really encourage you to go watch from the beginning. Tell me, guys, did you like this? How are you feeling about this? I would love to know your thoughts about this. What are you going to do differently as a result of this? If you're watching on replay, I'd love to know too, right? But to recap really quickly, this is when we're feeling uncomfortable about doing something, when we want a new result, we know we have to take a new action, right? Okay, so Tiffany says, everything you said, and my kids can graduate college without debt. And I can have a secure retirement and not worry about medical expenses. And I can contribute to my community more and feel a deeper connection to my community, right? I love all of that and less afraid to ask for help. And what are the ripple effects of that, right? And if I am less afraid to ask for help, I will inspire others to do the same. If I'm more connected to my community will become more connected to each other, right? Like all of this, right? Like it's the ripple effect can just go on and on and on. Like, is that worth it? Like, is that worth the micro step of like setting up a meetup group and showing up to the first event when you look at it? But you have to remind yourself of that, Tiffany. You have to remind yourself of that every single day, right? And I love that. That's great. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, so like when we're feeling uncomfortable about doing something, right? We have to say, okay, like, but like, you have to avoid the trap, just to recap real quick, you have to avoid the trap of trying to avoid discomfort, right? The trap is, oh, this is uncomfortable. This feels this doesn't feel fun to me. This feels uncomfortable. I'm a little resistant to this. I'm a little anxious about this. So I'm going to read about all the different ways to do it so that I can avoid discomfort. So number one, stop that. Don't try to avoid discomfort. Embrace it. I want to sit in discomfort, right? I don't need to learn anymore. I've got all the information. That's good. That's done. I've learned it all. I'm solid, right? The only thing I haven't studied is me and why I'm not doing it. It's me. I'm the common denominator. I got to get out of my own way, right? So how do I do that? The only way I can get out of my own way is by starting and studying me and seeing how I react and what I do and what's going on inside of me and adjusting and changing and growing and pivoting. So I have to start. Right? But how do I do that? How do I start? Okay, first I have to acknowledge I'm uncomfortable about something. And then I have to say, but that's not really the thing I'm uncomfortable with. Or I wouldn't even be thinking about it. I had to think about like what could result. I'm uncomfortable about what could happen if I do this thing. Rejection, other people's opinions, critical talk, failure, right? Whatever. I'm scared of that. Okay, cool. So now I need to give myself evidence that like that's not real. Right? That I've done this before and it all worked out. That I've done something similar before and it all worked out. Maybe I've never done it before, but I have proof and evidence that like I can navigate any situation that comes about because here are my skills, here are my resources, here's my support network, here's it, right? Like I'm giving myself all my evidence, right? And then once you give yourself evidence, then it's like, all right, cool. So I've given myself evidence and now what I have to do, right, are baby steps, right? So I have to like take baby steps. I have to say, all right, I need to break it down into teeny tiny baby steps and literally just focus on the first step. That's it. Because I don't even know about the end. I could pivot 18 times, so I can't even worry about the end. Just have to do that one tiny step. When that's done, focus on the next tiny step. And then I reward myself and celebrate and give myself treats and cookies and flowers and whatever for every single step I take. Because every time I do that, I'm associating a positive experience with feeling discomfort, with being uncomfortable, which will motivate me to do it again and again, right? Because I will never avoid discomfort. I will never not be uncomfortable if I'm growing. So instead, I just have to condition my body to want to do it because it gets a treat. It gets a cookie. Gets an ice cream sandwich, okay? Like, see what I'm saying? Like, that's your thing, right? So you celebrate that and then remind yourself of the macro, the big ripple effect about why you're really doing the thing you're doing the way Tiffany did. And then say, is it worth, like, creating a meetup group for this? Step by step. Is it worth titling the meetup group for this? Is it worth, just writing a description for this? Is it worth? The answer will always be yes. Okay, so hopefully that helped you guys see like how to get out of your own way, because it's not lack of knowledge, it's not lack of information, it's not lack of access to support, it's not lack of resources, it's not lack of whatever that's keeping you from doing the thing that is scary to you or that you're resisting. It's you. You're keeping yourself from it. So you have to get out of your own way by studying you, and you can't study yourself in a book or on the internet. Not really, right? Maybe some of you can, but not really, not the inside stuff that only you're gonna know, right? So the only way you can study you is by taking action, right? And so then those steps were how you do that. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you're gonna do differently. Tiffany, what is one action you're gonna take immediately after this Facebook Live? What are you gonna do immediately after this Facebook Live as a result of what we just talked about? One teeny tiny simple action that you're gonna do. I would love to know. So put that in the comments. Everybody else watching, let me know as well. What are you gonna do? And I will see you guys next week. Right, I go on vacation next Thursday. So I'm gonna be here though Wednesday night for my Facebook Live pre-vacation. I'm really, really excited about it. It's gonna be a really good episode. Yeah, so anyway, you're gonna wanna be here, right? 5 o'clock. On Wednesday next week. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you're gonna do. Let me know what your steps are gonna be. Take care. Have a good night, everybody. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.